Hello everyone, this is Tactical Lich here, and welcome to another battle replay from the recent tournament I hosted. Today we will be having a game between CoolUmbrella from Clan BBB, who is a very experienced tournament host, and ThePhoenixKing from Extreme Meme Team, a veteran tournament player. Now for army builds, the High Elves went for an extremely wide infantry build with a bunch of spears mixed in with sword masters. At the back lines, a bunch of archers, 4 units of them, flanked by some spearmen as well. For mobility wise, it will be 2 Illyrian Reavers and a Rahagras Pride, all glass cannon units supporting their Mage of Metal and Tyrion on a horse. Now for the Beastmen units, this is a 300 IQ and bush play, I would say. We have 2 very separated contingents of Beastmen forces, where we have the Spearmen hordes just rotating over to this side of the map. And in the bushes, we have some Centaurs with throwing axes, Centaurs, the melee variant, and Warhounds hiding. Same for the other flank with the Centaurs with throwing axes as well. And for the killing power, Tuskegore chariots accompanying Khazrak One Eye with a Brave Shaman, all on Tuskegore chariots. The High Elves are in a bit of confusion as they cannot spot the stalking Spearman herds. So the High Elves are forced to push forward, trying to get a better idea of where their foes might be. Unfortunately for the High Elves, the cunning Angors equipped with stalking abilities, they were just hiding in plain sight, and now they revealed their infantry line, forcing the High Elf to rotate their infantry to face towards this side, leaving the archers relatively exposed to the large amounts of flanking mobility on this end, who are now pushing forward, putting pressure onto the back lines. You can see the spearmen are not exactly engaging. They're just slowly taking their time to rotate and perform a surround. The High Elves, trying to search for their enemy, realize they are now being pinned between a rock and a hard place, just basically surrounded on all flanks. And the Swordmasters trying to push for the spears, but the spears, they're not engaging. They're just running, pulling back, just trying to drag these Swordmasters away from the main formations of the High Elves, while the mobility over here are pushing forward, pressuring the backlines of the High Elves, forcing the High Elf player to switch their micro attention from this end over to this end. In response, the Swordmasters are pushing over, trying to block off the Centaurs, while the Centaurs spring the trap, pinning down the Mage of Metal. Tyrion trying to hunt down the characters in chariots with the support of Rahagras Pride, but that leaves the backline wide open. The Illyrian Reavers, one of them got dragged onto some spearmen, while the other successfully in the nick of time blocking off these Warhounds, saving the archers. But the Mage of Metal, being separated and isolated among a horde of Centaurs, is slaughtered in combat. Of course, the Centaurs took quite a bit of damage in the fray, but killing off the Mage of Metal and preventing that insane final transmutation is definitely worth it, while the Rahagras Pride are getting beaten up in this engagement as well with all those chariots, as they do terrible against large targets. Over here on this flank, we are gonna shift quite a bit as the micro on both ends are quite intense, I would say. The Warhounds are able to get onto the archers as the Swordmasters are being dragged away from combat by the routing Warhounds, giving a slight bit of opening for the rest of the Warhounds to flood in. The Illyrian Reavers trying to save Tyrion in this pitch engagement, but Tyrion, surrounded by all these armor-piercing entities, barely managing to hold himself in combat. And the Illyrian Reavers, who have already taken some damage after being stuck on some Angor spears, are swiftly routed. And now these archer units are firing into the fray of the chariots, trying to support Tyrion, but that's not enough, as a lot of the High Elf infantry are stuck on a bunch of Angor spears, as the High Elf player attention was definitely constantly shifting around all over the battlefield, even forgetting the Swordmasters, as there's a lot of units and a lot of micro going on every single flank. Over here, archers barely got protected by some spearmen, who are able to block off these Angor spears and allowing the archers to pull off safely, but the regrouping Illyrian Reavers charging into a bunch of Centaurs, the Reavers being rather glass cannon and damaged from fighting all the hounds earlier, they are being slaughtered by the brutish Beastmen. Now the Spearmen are doing some nice anti-large damage on the Centaurs, but that leaves a lot of these archers exposed, pushing forward some archers, ThePhoenixKing trying to block off the Centaurs, by sacrificing one unit of missile infantry, saving one other unit at the back, now buying time for the swordmasters and spearmen to flood in and salvage the situation. Tyrion over here actually popped up the Heart of Avalon, got some healing back, but still separated, isolated by a bunch of chariots. Tuskor especially will be rather dangerous for him. Back to the middle, the Centaur's proven to be way too much for these archers to handle, breaking apart all these archer units as the swordmasters and spears fail to catch up on the Centaurs to block them off. Now that the missile units are destroyed, the Centaurs with their 4 legs are free to bounce around the battlefield, roaming around. Probably would be a good idea to start rear charging units like these spearmen, just giving them some nice charge impact damage. The Centaurs with throwing axes basically have free reign right now, as they do not have any more threats from the Illyrian Reavers, as both units are basically, shattered. Absolutely shattered. No archers either. And the High Elf forces are extremely scattered, trying to fend off the assault of all these mobility from all ends. And now the Centaurs, after getting a successful rear charge on the spearmen of the High Elves, retreating, trying to find a more favorable engagement as the swordmasters are able to slaughter a lot of these Beastmen infantry. Tyrion finally decided to extract himself from all of these chariots, now rushing for the protection, the shelter among these anti-large spears. While the swordmasters finally realizing that they need to go back to the center to protect and support this main engagement, protect their key units like Tyrion. But unfortunately, some of their models are caught on a bunch of Angkor spearmen, forcing them to go back into melee combat against these unwashed beastmen. Tyrion finally returning, getting a little bit confident there, trying to just circle around his infantry, probably trying to snipe out Khazrak as well, going in for a charge on Khazrak, but all these Centaurs coming in with a thunderous charge, smashing apart his spearman support. Tyrion, isolated in this whole bunch of Centaurs being surrounded, is fighting a losing battle, missing his last-ditch Sunfang. The Beastmen drop Traitorkin onto the High Elves, just draining all these health on the spears, and also Tyrion's own health as well. Being isolated, separated, and a bunch of chariots surrounding him, he will be swiftly routed by all this overload of mobility from Beastmen. The spearman, not in a brace formation, is simply pushed away by all the Centaur charging, leaving the champion of Ulthuan falling to the savage Beastmen. Tyrion goes down, and with that, army losses will soon be hit as these swordmasters being devolved, debuffing their melee attacks, losing out this engagement. The main pocket of High Elf's troops are lost, and the swordmasters on the far side will not be able to hold up their leadership as army losses kicks in. The defenders of Ulthuan are defeated, and CoolUmbrella will be claiming this match. Now that we're at the post-battle screen, I would like to thank CoolUmbrella and ThePhoenixKing for joining the tournament and giving me such amazing replays. I still got more replays from these two, but they will be in a separate video in the future. By the way, Clan BBB does have their own YouTube channel, and I have linked them down below. If you want to check out some tournaments that are hosted by CoolUmbrella, feel free to drop by over there and check out their amazing games. Now for the army performances, you can see the Beastmen side, the Centaurs all earned back amazing value. Considering that they only cost 500 something if I remember correctly, this is absolutely amazing. Every one of their unit earning way over 800, some of them even reaching 1000, due to that effective ambush allowing the mobility of the Beastmen to tear apart the High Elf units one by one. ThePhoenixKing put up a valiant fight, however the bamboozle from the Beastmen is just too much. Their 300 IQ ambush play won the fight psychologically, luring ThePhoenixKing into a trap, allowing the Beastmen to easily surround the whole army. Normally the surround can't be as easily performed as the mobility and the missile power from the High Elves will be able to deter the push from the Centaurs, but with the Angkor spearmen herd pulling the line of the infantry from the High Elves towards one side of the battlefield, this forced their missile units to expose their back to the Beastmen mobility who are stationed on the other side of the battlefield. And with that, CoolUmbrella's mobility pressure was able to force ThePhoenixKing into making a series of mistakes, capitalizing on these misses on his micro, and win the game eventually. For the rest of the Beastmen units, the dogs did okay. Their performances are not amazing considering they are a pretty terrible melee combat unit in general, dragged into the fight against swordmasters and spears. they got beaten back quite handily, especially some of the units got charged by Illyrian Reavers. Yes, they are quite glass cannon in combat, but their charge bonus is still pretty solid, especially on some lightly armored units like the Warhounds. Centaurs with throwing axes, not a lot of value here, as all the heavy lifting are done by their melee brethren. Tuskegee chariots surrounding Tyrion, but not able to do a lot of damage. With their anti-infantry attacks, the bonus isn't effective on the mounted Tyrion, and Tyrion, having amazing combat stats overall, was able to beat back this kind of offensive. Kazarek One Eye and the Brave Shaman was able to do quite a bit of damage. Kazarek, assuming most of his value is on Tyrion, since he does have good enough melee attack to punch through Tyrion's melee defense, while the Brave Shaman dumped quite a few Traitorkins onto the High Elf units, draining their health with the Beastmen magic. As for the Ungor Spears, they were basically chaff to hold the Swordmasters in place. They were absolutely slaughtered. The Swordmasters doing decent overall, 800 value on these guys and 1,300 on these guys. Almost 300 kills, 2 chevrons. They were definitely doing quite a bit of heavy lifting against the Beastmen units. Unfortunately, it is not enough. Spearmen there getting overloaded by a bunch of spears and getting charged by the Centaurs in the back got broken off. However, if they were able to form a more uniform line instead of being dragged out of position by all these Ungor spears and Warhounds, they might be able to beat back the Beastmen, secure the back lines, allow the archers to fire safely. Mage of Metal, a massive loss in the early game there, getting sniped out by the Centaurs, wasn't able to get back much of her value. Tyrion there, even surrounded by a bunch of armor-piercing entities, including the Tuskegee chariots, the Wild Shaman, and also Kazarek One Eye, still managed to fight back valiantly. Over 2,300 damage, definitely gave the fight his all. As for the archer lines, they got shut down pretty hard by the Chaos Warhounds, the Centaurs swarming these back lines, who are exposed to all these Centaurs and Warhounds, unable to fight back or shoot effectively. Most of their ammo lost in the dirt as their unit models died. Illyrian Reavers, they are rather glass cannon. This unit was able to countercharge some Warhounds, but the other one got stuck on some spears and in the end forced to fight a bunch of Tuskegee chariots and get destroyed in melee combat. Same for the Rahagra's Pride. Their melee stats with the bonus versus infantry is barely enough to start hitting some elite infantry, but against large units, cavalry, chariots, monsters, their melee attack stats is leaning towards the wet noodle side and doesn't do quite enough damage to help Tyrion and support his fight. Yes, the Alliance Roll is pretty nice, but that's only for recharging units and you need that one little bit of leadership damage to break the unit. During a losing fight against a superior opponent, it doesn't really turn a fight around. And that's basically it for army performances and today's video. Overall, this is an amazing ambush laid down by the Beastmen from CoolUmbrella, using the stock from the Beastmen infantry to lay down the ambush and using the terrain, the vegetation to conceal his units, causing the High Elf player to fall into confusion as they are not able to spot any Beastmen units on the field. And according to tournament rules, you need to constantly reposition your units such that you're expressing an intention to attack. So the High Elf player wasn't able to just sit there to wait for the Beastmen to attack him. He has to push. Without any idea where the Beastmen units are, he was forced to push forward, and that is exactly how he fell into the trap of the Beastmen ambush. Pushing forward into the middle of two contingents of Beastmen forces, he willingly placed himself into a pincered position, allowing the Beastmen unit to circle around him, surround him, flank him from all directions. And with the surprise attack coming from all sides, it basically led to a series of mistakes in micro and allowing CoolUmbrella to win the day with some timely exploitations in the weaknesses in his army formations. And yeah, that's basically it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you do, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe to get notified every time I upload a video. The topics will be ranging from battle replays like this one, where I will be showcasing some of the great replays viewers sent me, or some replays like this one, coming from a tournament I hosted. There's also going to be Wild Army build videos, and also tips and strategies for online multiplayer for Total War Warhammer 2. A little bit of a special announcement. Next week, I'm gonna host an October themed tournament where players will have to choose a greenskin subfaction, follow a set of faction specific rules to build their army, and decide who is the greenest and meanest of greenskin players around here. I will put the link down in the comment section, so if you're interested, feel free to check out the challenge page. And yeah, that's it for today's video. Also, if you have any battle replays you want to showcase, feel free to drop by my Discord or send me an email with the file attached. I'll be sure to check it out. So yeah, that's it for today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. TacticalItch signing out.